we've been going through this series on inherent value. And so by now, you know that you are valuable. You are designed on purpose for a purpose. You can live it. But this is area where most women miss this. Your clarity doesn't just change your life. It changes everyone around you. And that's where the real power is. We have built this together over the last few weeks, and you saw that you feel invisible because you're not showing up as yourself. We reframed that. You learned that God sees you and He values you completely, and that shifted the foundation. You understood that you have a very specific design. It's not generic. It is not what everyone else has. Made specifically for you, for a reason, for your capacity. You learned how to actually live that design. So, how to close the gap between knowing and doing. You learned the three shifts: clarity about who you are, expression of what that looks like, practice until it becomes natural. Now comes the part that most people don't end up going into. What happens when you actually do this? The answer is everything changes. It's not just you, and it's not just for you. It's for everyone around you. So there's a principle in leadership that most people, they don't understand. Presence precedes permission. Before you ever speak, people are reading your presence. They are reading your energy, your clarity, your alignment, your certainty. They don't know that they are doing it. It's more of a subconscious thing that is just inherently what they are. And that's happening at a level below conscious awareness. Your clothes, your posture, your energy, your clarity, these are all signals. And when those signals are aligned with who you actually are, something shifts. People trust you more. They listen to you more. They are willing to follow your lead more. Not because you changed who you are, but because you finally let them see who you actually are. When people see who you really are, when you're not performing, apologizing, minimizing, they know they're dealing with someone who's real, someone who's true, someone authentic, someone solid. And they respond to that every single time. So let me tell you the full version of the dry cleaner story. It's not about the clothes. It's about what happens when you show up as yourself. I was 29, 30, somewhere around there. I worked at the dry cleaners. And I was maybe 29 or 30. I worked at the dry cleaners, not as a long-term career plan, just as a job while I was figuring out my life. I was curious about something, and I had this theory about how I show up, not just my work ethic, how I actually present myself, how that correlates with how people treat me. I was curious to see how much money that I could make. So I tested it deliberately and on purpose. On days when I showed up, I looked professional. When I wore clothes that said, I take this seriously, that's when things changed. People would give me $5, $10 tips for a transaction that usually got a $1, $2 tip. They were only paying for the dry cleaners, like maybe $5. People would comment on how I looked, how I showed up, and they would always say, you don't look like you should be working at a dry cleaners. And I realized something in that moment, that people could sense that I was showing up differently. And there's something even deeper than just this surface level. When I dressed that way, I didn't just look different. I felt different, which meant that I acted differently. I was friendlier. I remembered people's names. I made a point to remember their names. I asked about their day. I made eye contact with them. I treated the whole situation like it mattered. I showed up with presence, and because I was showing up with presence, other people, they responded to that, because no one else who worked there responded in this way. Nobody else showed up in this way. So the customers didn't actually know what it was, but they could feel it. They could sense it. And they wanted to treat me better because they were meeting my clarity where they were. That is presence. That is the principle in action. Here's what I want you to understand with all this. It wasn't about earning the tips. It was about experiencing what presence actually does. It doesn't demand respect, but it does invite it. It makes space for people to show up better with you. When you show up as someone who knows who she is, you give other people that permission also to know who they are. Your clarity does not make people feel small. If you are making people feel small, that's not clarity. It makes people feel like clarity is possible for them. Your presence doesn't intimidate them. It invites them into a higher standard with you. And that's the ripple. That's what changes. This work, it doesn't just happen at work. It doesn't just happen in transactions. It happens everywhere, in every single situation, in every single relationship, every room, every decision that you make. So when you show up as your full self, everyone around you gets affected. When you show up as the actual version of you, calm, clear, boundaries, present, your kids have permission to be themselves too. They don't have to perform for you. They don't have to minimize who they are to make you comfortable. They see their mother living as her full self, and that gives them permission to do so as well. You are teaching them without words that it's safe to be whole, that it's safe to take up space, that it's safe to be exactly who you are. And do you know what that does for a child? That is everything. Your presence becomes the permission that they don't know they were actually even waiting for. When you show up as the woman who knows who she is, your partner, your husband, has someone solid to partner with, not someone unsure, not someone who's performing, not someone who's still trying to figure it out, someone who's anchored, that solid foundation. And that changes the relationship because it makes it more real. Because you're not asking him to complete you. You're not asking him to fill that gap. You're not asking him to validate who you are. You already know who you are. And you're showing up from that place, which means he can finally relax. He can be where he needs to be. And you can be where you need to be. He can partner with you from solid ground, solid foundation, instead of managing your uncertainty. And that is different. That is transformational for the entire relationship and your family. So when you show up with clarity and presence, people follow. Not because you demanded it, but because you led. You've shown them what is possible. Leadership doesn't come from perfection. It doesn't come from having it all figured out. Leadership comes from presence. It comes from knowing who you are and not apologizing for it. And it comes from knowing who you are and not apologizing for it. When you walk into a room anchored in yourself, not divided, not performing, people can feel that. They want to follow that. They trust that. And suddenly, you're leading. You're at a higher capacity than you were originally. And it's not because you're trying or you're trying more, but it's because you're clear. Your presence is your leadership. And here's the part that matters spiritually. When you show up as the version of you that God created, that God designed, you are not just changing your own life. You are giving other people permission to show up as themselves. Your clarity becomes their freedom. Think about the women who are watching you. Think about the impact of one woman in your circle, someone who follows you, who starts showing up fully, unapologetically as herself, not performing, not apologizing, not making herself smaller, just showing up. What permission are you giving them by you showing up? What if the greatest service you can do is showing other women on your team, that it is safe to be whole, that it is safe to take up space that God gave you, that it's safe to express the design that He put inside you? That's the ripple. That is the consequence. That's what changes everything. So ask yourself, who is watching how I show up? Whose life would change if I started showing up as my full self? What permission am I giving them by being brave? Because that is the bigger picture. That is what this is really about. It's not about having a better wardrobe. It's not about looking more confident. It's not about you, really. It's about the permission that you give by living aligned. It's about the women around you who are waiting to see if it's safe. It is about your children watching you. You are the one who gets to show everyone how important it is to walk fully in who you are called to be. We've covered everything. You understand your value. You know your design. You understand how to show it. Now you see the consequence of living it. You see how it changes everything. Here's what I know about most women. Understanding something and building a life around it, two completely different things. And you can know all of this. You can feel this landing. You can even commit right now to showing up differently. But then Monday morning hits. Your kids interrupt. Your nervous system wants to pull you back to being small. Why? Because your old way is familiar. Because small is safe. Because change is uncomfortable, but bridges the gap. That's what keeps you anchored when everything in you wants to go back. Structure, systems, frameworks, community, accountability. I created the masterclass. It's a very powerful masterclass. I show up as It's a powerful masterclass where we walk you through exactly this. It's not more theory. It's not more inspiration. It's a system, a framework, structure that helps you stay anchored. We go deep into presence and how you show up. We walk you through exactly how to build that authority. And this is for women who want to show up fully. And here's what I know about you. You didn't watch these videos just for entertainment. You watched them because something resonated. Something in you said, that's it. That's what I've been feeling. And that's what I need. That resonance is not an accident. It's the Holy Spirit. That's God saying it's time. And I believe you're ready. So I'm inviting you to take the next step, come to the masterclass, experience the masterclass, the system, feel what's possible when you finally show up as yourself. Feel what changes when you give yourself permission to fully be you. And you can join completely free. No credit card is asked at all. And with that, be sure to take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, share this with a friend who needs it. Your style is more than just clothes. It is how you show up and step into your God-given purpose. I will see you all next time, and I hope to see you in the masterclass. Bye.